Hey guys, it's Bree here at Blossom and Branch Farm, and I'm coming at you today from the field because it's really nice on this mid-November day. We're looking at mid-60s today, so wanted to do this in the fresh air, but I wanted to address a lot of the comments and feedback that I got on our cardboard video. So we're going to dive a little bit more in depth into a couple of comments that I received and also just talk about our general principles and practices. Here's what my channel is about. I've never really talked about why I started the farm, at least not here on YouTube. I've talked about it before in some podcast interviews, but I'll give you the quick information, which is 6 years ago, my best friend passed away of suicide after dealing with postpartum depression. She was just under 5 months pregnant with her second child, and her first baby was the same age as my oldest. We had always planned on raising our babies together, on living close by. We lived a mile from each other. And we had been friends since 7th grade, best friends since 7th grade. And when she died, she left a giant hole in my life. And I was struggling. After she passed, I found out that I was pregnant with my second daughter, Cora. So our second babies would have been the same age, and everything just got more difficult. So it's not exactly where I saw this video going, but I do want to give you this background. After she passed, I struggled a lot. You may not know that I was a professional ballerina, and all of a sudden my life seemed very unfulfilling, and I wasn't sure what I was doing, where I was going, what I was contributing to the world, and I just needed a drastic change. We found our farm, and it had been very, very run down. And we saw it. I came and looked at it with my husband and my dad, and something about it was just calling to me, and it felt like something that I could do in that time that was so dark that would help something. Me, help the land, help just something I could do. And gosh, in so many ways, this farm has healed me. This farm saved my life. I was in a really dark place. And without this farm, without nature, the power of nature, the power of being outside, my garden, sometimes I question whether I would still be here too. And I really feel like I need to repay that. And that is where our practices come from. My practices here at the farm come from a place of, I want to do everything that I can to protect this piece of the world that I have been given and that I am so blessed to have. And if that means being a stickler about researching every little thing that's going into my soil, and being careful about what I apply and what my practices do to the pollinators and to the ecosystem, then I'm going to do it because I owe that. I want to protect this relationship that I have with the land. And how does this tie into using cardboard in the garden? I know that seems odd. And I guess I could only say that everything that we do, I try to buy in as little as possible anymore. So not only is it cheaper for me to do things on the scale that I do if I don't buy in amendments, and I've learned to keep a closed loop here at the farm and basically to grow my soil on my own without using other stuff. But the other piece of it is I am wary. I am wary of adding things to my soil. That includes even organic things and compost that I buy in bags. I'm just very wary of adding anything, so I'm always overly cautious. This is true when I'm looking at cardboard as well. No, have there been conclusive studies on chemicals or forever chemicals or contaminants in cardboard showing that there are those things? No. Has there been conclusive evidence showing that those things are not in cardboard? No. So just knowing what I know, I've been alive for 40 years now, and I just know that I have trusted, people telling me that XYZ is safe, and then found out that it's not. So that's where that comes from. Now I know that cardboard in the garden works for a lot of people. I understand that. I'm not saying in my video by saying that, you know, I don't use cardboard in my garden anymore. That doesn't mean that I'm saying that you can't use it or you shouldn't use it or that it hasn't worked for other people. Absolutely it has, and we've seen that happen before. I'm not discounting that. I am saying that there have been experiences in my garden where I've seen it not work. I showed one of those. I also, you might not have caught this, but we have another video where we compared a no-dig garden using cardboard and compost, a lasagna-style garden using cardboard, organic matter, and compost, and my third method, which is the one that I prefer here at the farm that I call the native soil method, where we just till, we cover crop, and then we just plant right into it. So we've compared those three methods, and then we actually did a Haney soils test. A Haney soils test is soils test. Go watch the video if you want to really get in depth on the soil nerdery, which I love, but not everyone does. But essentially what the Haney soils test measures is beyond just macro and micronutrients and mineral contents, which is what a traditional conventional soils test measures. A Haney soils test actually measures the microbial life and the groceries and what's available for the soil in the future. So what we measured was the soil respiration, and that was the number that I looked at when we compared using cardboard in the garden and not using cardboard in the garden. You can go back and watch that video if you'd like to learn more, but the short of it was that the garden that didn't use any cardboard by far had the best soil respiration level. Am I saying that conclusively, you know, that cardboard isn't going to work? No. And absolutely, if you're in a wetter climate where cardboard breaks down faster, then you're going to be experiencing much less oxygen deprivation to the soil life versus someone like me who gardens in a dry climate. And I don't tend to overwater my beds. I don't like to grow a ton of things that are very highly dependent on lots of water. So cardboard in my area is going to take longer to break down. I still have concerns about the contaminants within cardboard, but that's a whole nother story as we've discussed. Now the other piece of this is that I use this method in areas where I'm just getting ready to start garden beds, and actually where I'm sitting right now is one. I haven't planted anything over here yet, but I have a lot of wood chips down because I'm preparing this area to plant for next year or maybe 2 years in the future. So in these areas, these are areas where I'm not going to be using cardboard because again, I'm in a dry climate. If I know that I'm in a dry climate and my cardboard is going to take 5+ years to break down, then I'm not going to want to smother out areas using cardboard because in the meantime, I'm going to be depriving that soil of oxygen and water. So in those areas, I'm going to stick with just my nice thick layer of wood chips to prepare a space for future planting. Now, another lovely comment that I got was, do you have any life in your soil at all? I don't see any worms. First of all, it's winter here. In Colorado, we've already had a hard freeze. So if I dig 2 inches down into my soil, no, there will not be worms because they've all gone deeper down into the soil. The second thing about worms specifically is that worms really thrive in a rhizosphere that is a root area. So the areas that I was digging in before that I had prepped using mulch didn't have roots in them yet. I hadn't planted anything there yet. So earthworms really love to feed on soil microbes. Soil microbes mostly exist in the rhizosphere of the plants. That's where they're the most plentiful, the most active, and it also tends to be where worms hang out for the winter. So no, if I dig 2 inches down into my soil, you're not going to see worms. That's not indicative of not having soil life. So don't feel bad if you feel if you're digging 2 inches down into your soil and you don't see worms, especially if it's winter time. That doesn't mean that you don't have soil life. But let's go take a look and see if we can find some worms in a rhizosphere. Like I mentioned, it is winter time here at the farm. It's mid-November, so our soil temps are pretty cold, which is usually not great for the worms, at least not in the top 2 inches of the soil. So we came here to my tunnel space because it's a little bit warmer in here. So we'll do a dig and see if I have any life in my soil. Now, again, I mentioned that they're typically existing around the rhizosphere of the plant. So we'll dig up a plant rhizosphere. Usually I prefer to keep my roots in my soil because that just helps with organic matter. But in the interest of science, we'll go ahead and dig one up here. All right, so here is what we'll find in the winter time. If you have a rhizosphere, that is an area where there's plant roots. If you're gonna find any worms, they're usually gonna be here around the rhizosphere. and they'll be curled up. You can see there's one right here next to my thumb. He's all curled up. He's starting to uncurl right now, but they curl up because it's cold. Okay, again, wintertime, worms are subject to freezing temperatures too. So this little guy's waking up. He's not happy with me. I'll go toss him into the compost pile. So suffice it to say, yes, I do have life in my soil. Thank you for asking that. But in the wintertime, especially in the top 2 inches of soil, that's really not their preferred area of activity. They're really going to be mostly curled up in the rhizosphere and the roots of plants here in the winter. So anywho, let's keep this environment positive, guys. I really appreciate you all being here and listening to my experiences. Again, I'm just here to share how I've built my farm. I'm here to share advice on how to do this with very little or zero input and how to keep your soil healthy. And that's it. Sorry if that makes anyone angry. Let's just keep everyone respectful around here. That's the community that I'm trying to build. Thanks for being patient with me as well, guys. I have worked with some big garden creators, and most of them have full-time staff that are dedicated to making and editing their videos. It's certainly not something that I have. I am a woman show. I am doing the farming here. I am doing the homeschooling, and I'm doing the video filming and editing too. So thanks for being patient with me. Being paged right now, so I'm gonna head out. Thanks guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.